drivetrain that can take all this power to move your car as fast as hell. That's what we talk about today. Welcome everybody to Fast Breaks RC, to the second episode of the Engineer's Diary. I will do 2 videos about the drivetrain subject because it's already that much to know, and I want to give you guys a good overview of all the separate things you need to know about this. As I promised, I got some updates today for you. I could mount a new motor which is 3 times stronger than the old one and fits perfectly into a 5-stud construction, which allowed me to redesign the top deck of the car, which made it even more stiff and sturdy. And a big plus of that, I could move the LiPo battery 1 step more into the mid, and as you remembered, as I said in the video about the frame, keep the whole weight as much as possible in the mid and at the lowest point possible. Look how simple this thing the frame looks, but it provides us with the stiffness we need for our drivetrain. Let's start with the meaning of the space frame for the drivetrain. Well, it's a very solid and sturdy design which makes sure the gears stay perfectly aligned. If they don't, they destroy each other. So if you want to make a design on your own of a frame, make sure there's no movement between the gears. They will destroy each other and the car won't drive, I don't know, like 10 minutes and everything is a mess. The next point on my list is friction. Friction is one of our biggest enemies. It reduces the performance and the durability of the parts. So what can we do for it? Well, that's pretty easy. Only use good bearings. Only use the amount of bearings you really need because they have friction too. The same for the gears. Only use the amount of gears you really want to use or you need to use because they have also friction. And have a good lubricant, but more for that in the second drivetrain video. I will show you some really cool stuff to make everything durable and smooth running. But I want to show you how I did it. Oh no, wait. Let's get to the next point. I will show you with that. Unwanted movement. There are some things our drivetrain likes to do when it's turning that fast and transferring all that power. Well, for that we need to understand some things, how the power works and where it wants to go. First thing is, gears want to push each other away from each other. That's a really big thing. That's why we also need a very sturdy and solid construction to make sure the gears stay aligned and at the point where we want them to be. The next thing is, if you leave a too long distance without any bearing, I'm sorry, I'm no VFX artist, so I can't do any fancy animation to show you that. But let's think we use Lego axles and we got this distance without a bearing. The axle can... What's the word for this? I'm sorry guys, my English is so bad. But the axle will do this and will start rotating around itself, and that kills our parts very fast and the car doesn't run smooth. You won't drive and will recognize, oh, he's doing that, and that's because the axle isn't good geared. No, it's just you will recognize the car isn't good running. The next point is a bigger thing. It's the gearing in the whole drivetrain. Generally, you need to know a shorter gearing means the car, I'm sorry, I need to take a look at my list again. Shorter gearing equals less top speed, more acceleration, more torque. The motor stays cooler, which is a very important point. but the car is more difficult to handle. If you pull the throttle, the car will react very explosive. And the opposite, if you do a longer gearing, the car has more top speed, less acceleration, less torque, but the motor gets hotter, but the car gets easier to handle because it's smoother accelerating. So what is the sweet spot for our gearing for the whole drivetrain? Well, mine is, and that's pretty stupid for me to say, much numbers and all that. My current gearing is 4.71 to 1. But what does that mean? Well, it means a good top speed, a good acceleration, the motor stays at a good temperature, I gotta say. But you shouldn't do a longer gearing without knowing how to drive and what you're doing. That's a pretty big thing. There was a good driver driving my car, and I touched the motor, and it was, I don't know, it was so cool. Well, I drove it and the motor got hot because they know how to pull the throttle. Some of you may don't know how to calculate all this. I got a pretty cool website, and there are some very cool calculators, but I want to show you that on the car. A gearing ratio is very easy calculated. You just take the driven gears divided by the driving gear. In my case, it's 24 from the driven gear and 8/2 from the driving gear, and that it's a ratio 3 to 1. That's all. The same you do at the differential. You take the driven gear with 22/2 and the driving gear with 14/2, which equals a gearing ratio from 1.57. To come to the total gearing, you just multiply every single ratios with each other. But you gotta keep one thing in mind. If you make the wheels bigger or smaller, you change also the gearing ratio. For that, I've got another tool. Honestly, I didn't find it on the website in English, only in German. Maybe you gotta take a look yourself and you will find it. Here's a calculator for the driving speed, but be careful, it's the driving speed in theory, because we can't know how much RPM the motor has when it's built in the motor. For example, this is a 2020 kV motor, which means it has 2020 RPM per 1 volt. And which means for that motor at 12 volt, we got about 24,000 RPM. But the motor doesn't do that in the car. It's much slower turning, and we can't know. Let's think this motor does 18,000 RPM in the car. That we write it down here. The next thing is the gearing ratio of gear, which is 3:1, and the next is the gearing ratio for differential, which was 1.7, and the last here we need to write one down is half the diameter of the wheel, which is in my case 0.02 meters, and then we just plug in the last field, and there we go. And then we just plug in the last field, and there we go. We got our driving speed in theory. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a lot, and I also hope I explained it good. Like every time, if you got some ideas, questions, deeper questions about everything I explained, just write it down in the comment section, or tell me if the video was horrible or how can I make it better. See you guys in the next video, where I talk about lubricant, the parts, third-party parts, and some tips and tricks how to keep everything long running and durable.